Welcome to New England Lacrosse Journal's Chasing the Gold podcast, your destination for all things lacrosse. I'm your host, Kyle Devitt. Alongside me is Jack Piatelli. Do you like my little Christopher Walken there?
Yes.
All things lacrosse. No, no, that's not funny to you. You're the worst. You are the worst. That's terrible. You're not even going to say anything. You're just stunned.
We'll do a better walking imitation, and maybe we'll have something to talk about.
You know, Yaz, you're talking a lot for a guy
who's not supposed to be talking.
A little
not
better.
Supposed to say
I don't know
anything
why.
into this mic.
Luckily, I control the board over here, whether you like it or not.
Well, now that we've alienated our audience, let's introduce our guest. He is the head coach of Harford College, Aaron Verardi. Coach, how are you?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Pretty good, other than my terrible walking impression now being on record forever. You're our first JUCO coach. Is that the correct term, JUCO or community college? Which one do you prefer?
I think you can kind of go either way with it, but JUCO is probably the most common.
I think one of the things that our audience would like to know is like, what is that exactly? And because there isn't a lot of those up here in New England or in a lot of the country, period. Right. You guys are down in Maryland. Can you kind of just talk about what that is in the grand scope of college lacrosse? Absolutely.
And I do appreciate the opportunity here to kind of talk about this. So it is very regional. It's definitely more down in the mid-Atlantic area. But so you spoke about community college. That's essentially what the league is made up of. It's 2-year schools. So there's some that are just your regular community college. There's some technical schools, ranging, in all different areas. But essentially the plan is to get either an associate's degree here, which is about halfway through a bachelor's degree, for an affordable price. That's, a big reason why people go this route is to save money. But the idea is that you're going to be able to kind of use this as a stepping stone, from a lacrosse standpoint, to be able to go on to a 4-year college and play, and finish up your bachelor's there. So it's a league made up of, it's freshmen and sophomores mostly. But we have guys that, have gone to 4-year schools that maybe, either things didn't work out there, maybe they weren't enjoying themselves, whatever it may be, maybe they needed a fresh start. So we do occasionally get, some transfers in that way as well. So the whole idea is, for this to be a place where guys can kind of get started with college. It's kind of an in-between, similar to how some may go the prep year. It's a way to do that, but you're kind of moving forward. You're going in and starting your college career as well. So it's a good place for guys to go if they are, trying to figure it out, what they want to do, what they want to study. Maybe they are kind of late bloomer. Maybe they have a lot of talent. Maybe they, had a big senior year. Maybe they had an injury at some point in the recruiting process. Maybe they're just looking to save money, and it's a way for them to be able to, have a stepping stone like this to get recruited and be able to transfer off to a 4-year school.
Coach, I had the opportunity to spend 4 years at Dean College when it was a 2-year school. And it was actually a great experience for me because I found that coaching the players, well, number one, the rosters were a little bit smaller, so you really got to know the players. And I just felt like I worked harder because I wanted the experience for the players to be really beneficial for these players, because those 2 years was crucial in their future. I hate to say some of the players were academically challenged, and maybe the classroom wasn't their best attribute, so on and so forth, but maybe a little mature, right? And we were getting players that prep school wasn't the direction they want to go, to your point, because of the cost. And the kid knew he didn't want to spend another year in the classroom. So he came to Dean, And it was great to see so many kids go on to do great things after Dean if they hadn't gone to Dean, more so than going to a prep school.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really, like you said, it's a crucial couple of years. I tell guys all the time, it's amazing the growth and maturity that happens between, 17, 18 to being 20 years old. There's been a lot of guys that have come this route that weren't really sure of themselves, didn't really know what they wanted to do, had to, mature a little bit, and maybe weren't getting a ton of looks in high school that, have had a ton of opportunities after spending 2 years here.
Yeah, and the other thing that a lot of players should really take a look at is you might be recruited by, I don't care if it's 1, 2, or 3, right? 4-year school. But if you go to a JUCO school, right, you can have an opportunity to play for a couple of years and really develop. So when you get to that next level, let's say, Division 2, 3, Division 1, you've got playing experience. So instead of going to a school and sitting on the bench for 2 years, you might be working your academics, but if you want to play at a higher level, this gives you an opportunity on the field sooner and develop your skill set, and then go on to maybe a place that you wanted to go to before you went to JUCO and you couldn't get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think one of the things too that, for lacrosse people talking about this kind of level, as someone that worked in like a national area, the 2 community colleges I knew of were Onondaga and Herkimer forever. That's all I knew. I didn't even know Dean was community college for a long time.
They were a 2-year private school, so it wasn't, it wasn't state
Right.
school. I think the community college is more state, right, versus
Correct.
private.
Right.
So,
It's the differentiation of that.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't grow up in a region that has that, you kind of don't understand what that does and what it can offer you. I think one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, you're talking about associate's degrees and, what do those entail? I think, I don't have a ton of experience with that, just working in the places that I've worked. Can you talk a little bit more about the academics of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we offer 140 different programs here that you can major in for an associate's degree. What it is essentially it's your first 60 credits, and then most schools are, 120 credits is your bachelor's degree. So it's kind of that midway point. We have guys that major in business, exercise science, environmental science, economics, you name it. Another good, I guess, sort of piece with the associates is you can get a degree in general studies, which allows you to hit all of your core requirements that you would need, to graduate. So you need math and science and English, but it also allows you to be kind of explorative with other, different types of majors that you might want to stick to for a 4-year degree. So a lot of times they narrow it down by the end of their sophomore year, what they want to do, but they've already had this opportunity to get all the core credits that they need while at the same time kind of figuring out what they want to do. So you get that associate's degree, which holds value in the admissions process in a lot of places. And not to mention it is a college degree. So it is something that you carry around with you. But it's very helpful, in helping, students get into the 4-year schools. A lot of times there's scholarship money that comes with having an associate's degree if you're a transfer. But it's really kind of allows you to figure out what you want to do without going too deep down a rabbit hole. Because I can speak for myself. I changed my major after my freshman year of college. It happens a lot. And, I think it's helpful to know that you can come to a place like this where, you're given the opportunity to figure out what you want to do while still moving forward.
Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to college. And I think, to your point, a lot of kids are still in that frame of mind. They really weren't sure. And really, you can't blame them, right? How do you know what you want to do unless, you want to be a writer?
No. So I was going to ask you,
What?
do you want to guess what my original major was? It wasn't English. Do you want to guess?
Law.
No. psych,
Interesting.
which explains this entire podcast in so many ways.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
You're psychotic.
Coach, could you talk a little bit more about, you must be recruiting constantly because you have players for 2 years instead of 4. So that the churn, not just roster turnover that's regular, now you're doubling it almost. What is that process like for you? How long are you on the road every year?
It is a process for sure. Like you said, the turnover is quick. There may be guys that come here for 1 year that move on, and maybe they find an opportunity. They have everything they need academically, and they might move on after 1 year. And I would say all of the programs, that is their goal ultimately, is for these guys to be able to transfer. So, to your point, it is definitely a lot of work to reload the roster. At the same time, you're also helping these guys get looks and get opportunities to get recruited. So in a lot of ways, you're doing like a college coach's job and a high school coach's job all kind of wrapped into one. But yeah, we recruit all over too. We have guys on our roster from Canada, from California. We've had Colorado, all up and down the East Coast, Midwest, I mean, everywhere. And I would say there are a number of junior colleges that do the same. We're going to tournaments. In a lot of cases, we're reaching out to high school coaches and college coach or club coaches and trying to see who they might recommend to go this route. They may know of a kid in their program who, was injured his junior year. And because of that, he's not going to get those looks and those opportunities. Maybe they already know, hey, he may struggle academically, may, need a year or two to get his grades in order. So we do a lot of reaching out and just trying to see, what the landscape looks like in a lot of areas. And yeah, we're on the road. We go to tournaments all summer, just like the college coaches. We go to a lot of high school games. In the spring, I would say we probably recruit later than in terms of the classes we're reaching out to. I'm recruiting 2024s right now and paying some attention to 2025s, but I also know, at the end of the day, they're going to be figuring this out usually their senior year if this is a route they might want to take. So, it's quick. We have them here for a year or two. We do the absolute best we can with them here and move them on, and then we're looking to bring more guys in that can benefit.
Brought up a very good point, Coach. Not only are you a college coach, but you're a high school coach because you're bringing these kids in, trying to help them find their next stop, right? And the other thing that intrigues me is not only is the turnover every 2 years, but you have to bring in half your team every year, right? So how many players do you have on the roster, and how many players do you bring in every year?
So we have roughly 40 on our roster. We are bringing in around 25 every year. That's what we shoot for. So, I know, as you mentioned earlier, there are a lot of junior colleges with smaller rosters in the 20s to 30s, even in the teens, to low 20s. I'd say for us, what we try to do is provide that college-like experience in a lot of ways. So we do try to have a bigger roster, and we play a lot of scrimmages and a lot of games throughout the year to make sure we're getting our guys on the field and getting them filmed. But yeah, to your point, we usually are looking for 20 to 25 every year.
So how difficult is it for you? First of all, I got to say, I hope they're paying you a lot of money, because not only you're a college coach, but you're a high school recruiter. You're sending these guys off to some good places. I see where you're sending some of your players to, but how do you keep that culture in that environment, positive, where the turnover is so great? The locker room changes so often. I mean, you don't have that, now you get kids in college right now because of COVID. You get guys at school 5 years and 6 years. So, but they've been in that locker room for 5 or 6 years. You've got a guy in the locker room for 1 or 2.
Yeah, we do a lot in the development of character early on. For us, I believe, the culture and the environment, you have to do it on an individual level and then get the group collectively, into it. So our fall is, we're pretty active. We do a lot with our guys in the way of training. They're lifting year round. We do a lot of team building, a lot of community service together. We keep them together as much as we can within the confines of our rules. And we really do stress the importance of, our returners from the year before, taking a leadership role. So they're going from being a freshman to, essentially being the upperclassman right away. And so we actually do leadership meetings with them. We have a core leadership group within our team, as well as 2 captains. So we're really working with these guys to develop them, in their character and their leadership skills. And with that, I think it's the best that we can possibly make it. Time is obviously the best way to make that a staple, as you mentioned, with having guys in the locker room for 4 or 5 years. But for us, it's really important that we take that part very seriously, especially early on, so that by the time we get to the spring, it's almost like our guys have been here for, a season already at least. So, our freshmen almost become like sophomores. And a lot of that has to do with our program, but they play a lot too. They go out and we scrimmage 4-year colleges. We'll play probably 8 or 9 scrimmages, between 3 or 4 dates in the fall. And so we put our guys out there against, top Division III, Division II programs. We even, scrimmaged Wagner in a Division I program this fall. So they get kind of put into that early. They get to see what that looks like. We always take those as learning experiences. So they're building in a way that, I think is unique, but at the same time, we get to learn from those programs, watching them, how they do things. And our guys are constantly trying to reach that next level. So, they want to strive for that.
I remember one particular player, student, athlete that when he came to Dean as a freshman, he was like, I messed up. I wasn't really focused on my school. I really don't know why I'm here. I really don't want to be here. But my parents said, this is a good option for me. And then the following year, a year later, he was captain of the team. And the transformation of this player was truly amazing, impressive. But what I learned, and you see it every single day, is the jump from freshman to sophomore year at a JUCO school is so much greater maybe than in other 4-year schools, because they really have to take that leadership role and grow up very quickly, more so than if they're in a 4-year school. Absolutely.
Yeah. And when we scrimmage these 4-year school teams, we will tell them, we do have to grow up quickly here. It's something where, and I would say, like I mentioned, the growth between, the start of their time here to when they leave, if they stay for 2 years, is tremendous. And they really do get a lot of experience. They're playing a lot, with those scrimmages, coupled with what we do in our season, what we do with our entire off season. They do grow up quickly here. And I would say that's a valuable thing for college coaches too, of why they might tap into this route for recruiting purposes, is, they're getting someone with experience who have played. We like to think that if they're recruiting someone from Harford, they're getting somebody who, is going to be able to fit right in and help them right away, going to fit their culture. So, that's our goal ultimately, is to prepare them for that next level.
And the other thing is they've proved themselves in the classroom, right? So now they know they can handle a college curriculum.
Yep.
Speaking of growing things, Coach, you've been there for 10 years, plus I believe 2 as an assistant. So you kind of have built this program from something that people may not have ever heard of. And now, we're talking to the reigning JUCO champion right now.
Awesome.
How do you do that a decade to a lot of people is a long time, but you can have a decade with no resources and get nowhere. You can have a decade with, no support and get nowhere. You built up the program from, I believe, 4 and 10 your first year all the way up to where you are now. what was that process like for you? Like how many, I mean, you must have learned like hundreds of lessons in that time period, right?
Absolutely. And I think I can give all the credit to a lot of people that helped with that. We had a lot of coaches. These you mentioned, what the pay scale is. These guys are part-time. They all have full-time jobs on the side. A lot of people investing their time into us, and the college here is, the facilities are tremendous. I was shocked when I got here the first time. I came from UMBC, which, the facilities were nice. It was Division I athletics. When I got here and saw, what the fields looked like, we have a beautiful arena for our basketball games, and just the campus itself, it looked like a 4-year college. So in my mind, it was, could we just slowly build a little momentum, get a little bit better every year? And I felt like Harford could sell itself if people could get on campus and see it, and then learn about what it could do for them. So, I'm pretty lucky to have the people who have, decided to be a part of our staff. Some, local, very well connected coaches, and I have a lot of connections now that I've made just by reaching out to a lot of people, recruiting wise, and then getting to know college coaches as well and getting a ton of tips from them. Just kind of honestly, the program grew as I grew. I think when I started off, I wasn't great at this, and just trying to learn from as many people as possible and take things from different programs that I think are excellent at the 4-year level, and just try and apply that here. So it's a 10-year process. We didn't probably start seeing the fruits of the labor until probably year 6 or 7. But now we've built a lot of momentum, and our name is out there, and we just look to keep building. I see us still in that process of growing it.
Once again this summer, the Piatelli Lacrosse Boys Summer Showcase is coming to Springfield College on July 17th. Division I, II, and III college coaches from across the region will be in attendance to coach and evaluate players attending the showcase. In addition to the high-level coaching and instruction, players will compete in a series of scrimmages, and game film is provided to each player competing that day. The showcase is open to players graduating in 2025, 2026, and 2027, regardless of high school or club affiliation. Find more information on the 2024 Summer Showcase, including which college coaches will be in attendance, at piatellilacrosse.com. That's PIATELLI lacrosse.com.
From a recruiting standpoint, do you think players are attracted to your program because you're winning, or where they end up going after attending your program?
That's a great point. Yeah, I think from the individual standpoint, they know that if they're going to come to Harford, winning is going to allow them to get on more radars. I would say the Final Four of junior college is definitely a place where college coaches are stopping by before the recruiting season starts. I would say that's where a lot of our guys who have gone to high level Division I, that's where they've kind of made a name for themselves in a lot of ways. So it's a combination of knowing that they're going to be able to be on that stage. At the same time, they see, guys from Harford going to Maryland, to Rutgers, to Towson, to Marquette, schools like that, and all the levels, not just Division I, but D2 and 3, some great programs. And I think that's what they're looking for. They want to be able to have those opportunities.
Talk a little bit about the regulations in terms of recruiting. Division I, a little bit different than Division II and Division III, and when you can talk to a player, and like the rules and regulations for fall ball and how it's different. Division I's only allowed so many days, same with Division II and Division III. I'm not familiar with it at all.
Yeah, so our rules are kind of a blend of all the NCAA levels. From a recruiting standpoint, I'll start there. It's different in how we don't have dead periods. You can probably talk to a recruit at any point throughout the year. We I mentioned we usually are recruiting seniors, but at the same time, we can start talking to juniors as well. I mean, that's usually when you're, at the earliest in the recruiting process for junior college. So it's the recruiting timeline is pretty similar, just without dead periods involved. Some schools do offer scholarship money, some don't. We're all kind of in a state of, some schools have it, some don't. So it's
That's like
depends
D2.
on the school.
That's like
What's
D2. That's like
Yes, exactly. Yep. And so, from the yearly calendar standpoint, we have dates where we are allowed competition. We have regulations on the number of hours we can spend with the team throughout the year. So for our fall ball, it's more like middle of August until end of October. That's when we're allowed to play other teams, and that's when we'll do those scrimmages, usually in October. But we can practice throughout that time. We have the 8 and 20-hour a week type of guidelines. They don't necessarily call them rules like Division I, but those are the guidelines, is to stay within 8 to 20 hours a week. Our off season, is we keep it to about 3-4 days a week where we're practicing and lifting. We like to give the guys 3 days off at least to be able to focus on their academics and whatever else they need to focus on in that time. We go all the way until the end of the semester, though, as far as continuing to lift and do skill sessions and all of these things. And then when our guys go on winter break, that's usually mid-December to mid-January, and then we start practice in the middle of January. January 15th is usually our first day. So we start then, we go all the way until mid-May, and that's when our championship tournament is.
What do you have, like Division I and Division II? Do you have a clearinghouse, or no? Are you more Division III as far as it goes for that?
No, there's no clearinghouse. You do have signings. We can sign players. Like, as I mentioned, some schools have scholarship money. A lot of cases, to be able to give that, they have to sign a letter of intent. So there is that process, but you don't have to register with a clearinghouse. And we are in no way connected to the NCAA as far as that type of stuff with recruiting. So, a lot of times players will ask me, do I need to have an NCAA number? How does this work? And, we're a separate entity. We are in the NJCAA, which is National Junior College Athletic Association. So it is a separate league. So we're not really operating under the same rule book as the NCAA, but our rules are very similar.
Are you allowed to offer scholarships? Do you have scholarship money?
Yes, we do. I don't know every school who does offer it, but they do offer scholarships. Yes.
And what kind of scholarship offerings are you allowed to give out?
So it just depends on whatever our scholarship budgets are. It varies team by team. In most cases, it's not enough to say, hey, this is a no-brainer. It's a full ride. We don't have anything like that. For us, mostly it's, guys are getting $1,000 to $2,000 here or there, to take it off of tuition, which, is already pretty cheap though. And that's kind of the nice thing is, you're not talking about $20,000 a year. It's more like $7,000 or $8,000 a year if they're coming from out of state.
So your scholarships are based on dollar budgets to pass those dollars around. I guess Division I is very similar but they break it down like you have 11.5 to 12 scholarships, and then they divide that amongst, whether it's 45 or 50 players. You're given it, you get allotted so many dollars, and then you can decide on where you want to spend those dollars.
Correct. Yes. And with the letters of intent, we are allowed 24 letters of intent for our team every year. That includes anyone returning who might get scholarship money.
Yeah, everything you say to me keeps, because I coached at Division II schools, sounds so similar to Division II schools where you're kind of like, okay, this is how it works. Do you understand? Like, do you go through that process a lot in the recruiting?
Yes, definitely have to explain all of that. it's similar, and in a lot of ways it's different at the same time. So it's we answer all the questions that come our way, and I've been doing this a long time, so usually I'm able to offer a lot of help.
You're in Maryland. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the area you are in down there? Because as someone that formerly worked in Baltimore, things are very different depending on where you are in the state. It's very similar to Massachusetts.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So we are about 40 minutes northeast of Baltimore. We're in Bel Air, Maryland. So you're maybe 40 minutes away from University of Delaware, and you're about 40 minutes away from Towson University at the same time. We're kind of in between there, right off of I-95 north or south, I guess, depending which way you're going. But it's a nice area in a way that it's got a nice little town down the road in Bel Air. We kind of have a mixture of rural with some small city, and then big suburb right around the college. So you mentioned it's in an area where you can get to Baltimore if you want to go down there, and there's obviously a ton of college lacrosse. And our guys love that, especially the ones from out of state. They love that they can go and watch a game at Hopkins, or go watch one of our alumni playing at Maryland. That's really fun for them. So we're right in that corridor there.
Coach, why don't we know more about the junior college championships? You don't really hear a lot about it. Unfortunately, Division II and Division III, they haven't quite made the ESPN Plus or ESPNU, before they used to, but at least those games are played during the, Final Four weekend, but you don't hear a lot about it.
So the junior college national championship it's the Final Four. You play the semifinal one day, it's a Saturday, and then the next day you play the championship game if you make it.
Back to back.
Yeah, back-to-back days.
Wow.
It's on Mother's Day weekend, and that's kind of a, junior college is like its own little bubble. Everybody involved with it knows everything about it. Like doing it on Mother's Day weekend is like a tradition for us, same as Memorial Day weekend for, the D1 teams. So we are really pushing it. We're the host this year, actually. For the second year in a row, and we're actually hosting next year as well. So last year the attendance was excellent. I mean, for the championship game, stands were packed. You couldn't really move around much in there. There was a lot of people, and it was definitely a great venue. So we're trying to make it more appealing and get the word out there. I think it is something that's kind of kept under the radar. And I don't know why, truthfully. I think, it's more so just that, everyone is very focused on what's going on in Division I, II, and III. And, junior college is definitely something that, I think we can do a little bit to get the word out there. So here we are.
My counterpart's been sleeping here. She's been writing about this all the time. I'm a regional journalist. I'm gonna make sure he writes all about the junior.
I am a
college,
regional.
NCAA,
we don't have JUCO up here.
NJCAA, whatever it is.
This is not my job, but I do know people in that area, and I will definitely pass it along to them. And you talk about, players that are involved and people that are involved in your specific circle, right? This podcast would not be happening without one of your assistants, Tyler Ferrara, who bugged me on Instagram, bugged me on email, and I went, yeah, man, let's do it. That's great. That, by the way, if you're listening to this and you just want to be on the podcast and you think you've got a good story or a good program, hit me up. It's fine. I might not respond the first time you do it, which unfortunately I think was the case with Tyler, but wanted to give him a shout out because he kind of made this happen. And that's kind of like, we do this podcast and we talk about, Jack and I are D3 guys, right? Like we coach there, we played there. It's kind of like part of our DNA, right? Like we love it. We also love D1, D2. And I think, the more the merrier when you bring in great lacrosse and really excellent lacrosse. I mean, you would not, they scrimmage York and Salisbury. Let me tell you something. if this team wasn't good, they wouldn't be scrimmaging Salisbury and York. That would not be or Stevenson or Washington College or any of the other schools, because those places value their time. Those guys are into what they want, and your team is giving them a challenge. They're getting ready, and they might be looking at players that could come into their school from your program. So it's directly beneficial, you know, and I think that's super important.
It's high level lacrosse. And to be honest with you, and I'm not just saying this, Coach, because you're on our show, our podcast, but I think it's fantastic that you're on. Because I'm learning a lot about JUCO and how it works. And, you know, even though I was there many years ago, but, you know, it's a great opportunity for players that aren't sure really what they want to do in their life. And they might not, you know, like you said, kid might have gotten hurt, or, you know, a lot of players have upside, they're late bloomers, and it's amazing what a couple of years will do for them. So I'm thrilled you're a guest today. Seriously, I'm and nice work. Yeah. But if someone reaches out to me, I'll respond to them right away. Unlike you,
please.
That's the difference. Italian, you got Italian on this side, you got Irish on that side.
I'm busy, man.
We're loving, caring people, cold fishes. That's the way it works.
You know what? I'm going to bring up the history of the Irish people and the history of the Italian people, and we'll see who wins. Okay, we'll see who wins. History remembers.
Cabbage or meatball?
You contributed food. Congratulations. We contributed freedom.
Pasta
and
or
famine.
whiskey? I mean,
potatoes.
Wine. Yeah,
wine. We got potatoes, dude.
Wine or whiskey?
Oh my God. Well, I think we know who wins that one. Coach, tell me a little bit about some of the programs that you have sent your players forth towards. Like, give me the top 5 most prevalent schools that have received players from Harford.
All levels.
Yeah, all levels.
Man, it's hard. It's hard to say the top 5. I can just kind of list some of the schools that guys went the last couple of years. So, you know, we have guys that have gone to Towson that are right down the road. UMBC, Maryland. You know, the state school, Mount St. Mary's has had a few over the years. You know, we have a couple guys going to Salisbury. Some have gone to York. Division II, Limestone, Tampa, St. Leo has like 4 guys from our team last year. So it's kind of all over the place. It's really, you know, we don't hold guys to like, hey, you come here and like, you got to go to a certain level. Some guys come in, they think, hey, you know, this is my way to Division I. They're thinking, I want to go to Maryland, I want to go to Towson, and they discover, you know, maybe their priorities change a little bit. They figure out that, you know, the educational side of things, they look at it and go, hey, here's a school like St. Leo, terrific opportunity, has my major, it's down in Florida. You know, it's a good program.
Springfield College coach is the former Springfield College player is the Coach Jorgelson. I just want to throw that in
He
there.
was a guest on the podcast. I remember him. And he coached against me when I was playing too. And
yes.
We didn't like it.
Sorry to interrupt you, Coach.
Oh yeah. But I mean, we've probably, I'd say we've sent off guys to probably 50, 60 different schools over the last 7-8 years. And it really is all over the place. We have a guy from last year, from Colorado originally, who's out at Westminster in Utah. So, and that was his dream school. That's where he wanted to go. So, it's cool how that can work out for so many. And, you know, I'd say Division II is probably the most popular as far as transferring from JUCO to the next level, because Division II does have scholarship money. In a lot of cases, you know, the kids coming here are looking for the most affordable route. And D2 is always a great opportunity, but we're always sending a few guys to D3s. And there's usually 4 or 5 guys going Division I every year.
You know, you bring up a good point, because I think when the kids are in high school, you know, and I run across it all the time, and Kyle does, and, you know, not where you are, but I think high school coaches, where so many players want to play Division I, but they don't know the reality of, you know, the commitment to play Division I. It's a commitment like no other, and so when they come in to your program, are their expectations, a lot of them, like some of the high school players, that they want to play Division One, and this time at your program gives them an opportunity to realize, Division One, yeah, it's great to play Division One if you can play Division One, but there's so many other options out there. And for example, look at these 50 schools that our players have gone to and had great success in the classroom and on the field.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think they find out pretty quickly too, when we scrimmage schools like York and Salisbury and Stevenson, that,
Right.
D3's got some great lacrosse too. And so is Division Two. So, that happens a lot. They come in with an idea of mind of what they're looking for. And ultimately, they come to realize that there's a way bigger picture here. It's not about, saying, I go to this school, I play here. And, that first step may mean, hey, I'm going to junior college. And that's not always, the thing you want to brag to your friends about, but it's certainly something that can get you to that next step and that next level. And they're opening up opportunities that, in a lot of cases, they haven't heard of some of these schools. I know if they're only watching ESPN and the Division One schools every Saturday, then they may not know about all the offerings at D2 and D3. And then when these schools reach out to them and show them what they've accomplished, and then the degree and they actually go visit and see the place, they go, wow, I really could see myself here, and figure out that, that's the most important thing, is find the right fit.
I wish every player could go to a JUCO school, because, again, you brought it up, another excellent point, Coach, is they're not seeing it. They're experiencing it in terms of what their actual level of play is, right? So they're not as good as they are, right? But they know that they're have an opportunity to still play at a high level and go on and actually play, and maybe play for a championship, but get a college degree as well. But that experience really is, if every kid could go to college before they went to college, right, it would be a pretty good thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I PG'd, because I knew I wasn't ready, and that was just the option near me that was available. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, no.
You weren't as good as you thought you were.
No, it's not even that. It's just, honestly, for me, it was academically and socially.
Sure, right. Yeah, I agree, especially socially.
Well, yeah. No, it's true. And I think that is like a part of kids choosing their college and where to go. And just regionally by me, my players, a lot of kids that go to Hopkinton, they go to UNH.
Right.
Because it's first of all, it's cost effective.
State school.
Just like what you're saying, it's a state school. It's not that far from Hopkinton, but it's far enough that you're away from mom and dad showing up at your dorm. It's like that perfect 45-minute window, 1 hour window, depending on where you go. And I think that's it's interesting that, some kids, those places are huge. And if every kid that got into UNH, went to UNH and wanted to play lacrosse, the lacrosse team would be 100 kids. So you can't do that. So there is competition for MCLA. There's competition now, in your program as well for spots. And I think that level is what you learn. And just like you were talking about, Coach, like the level that you are is maybe not always what you think it is, but also it's all the other intangibles around it, right? Like I could have a kid who's excellent, and I help him get into a D2 school, and he doesn't fit, or a D3 school, and he doesn't fit with the program socially. His girlfriend went to college with him, ruined everything. Like things can happen that you can't predict. And I think, not that I don't want to paint your program as like a safety place to go, but like it gives you an option that's different than kids see normally in this region, specifically in New England, but is more prevalent in Maryland and upstate New York, where the rest of the JUCOs are. Do you see a difference when you get to play teams like that, whereas teams in your region?
Yeah. So the big schools outside of, in Maryland, it's Harford, Howard, Essex, and then Anne Arundel has a history as well. But in upstate New York, you mentioned Onondaga, they're always very good, and they still are. I mean, they were the dynasty of dynasties for years. When I first got here, they were on their 109 game winning streak. So But, when we're playing those teams in other regions, like Onondaga, and then on Long Island, you have Nassau Community College, which actually has the most national championships of any junior college school. And they've had guys, come through their programs. I mean, just Onondaga alone probably has the most pros playing right now. And then, Nassau had guys like Nicky Polanco, and most recently Josh Byrne played at Nassau. He was actually there when I was first starting out here. And you're playing kind of these regional teams in a lot of ways, and I think that's where we might be kind of unique in how we do recruit out of the area so much. We're not just all Marylanders, but you see these different styles of lacrosse. You see these kids that are obviously very, very good, but maybe just overlooked in the process or what have you. But this level, especially in the top 4 teams, if you come to watch the Final Four, it's a high level of lacrosse. I think that in New York, it's still a very valid option for many. I think Nassau is usually, every year they're going to get some guys that went away to 4-year schools that come back, and Nassau is right in their backyard. So they're always very talented in that way. And then, up in Syracuse, at Onondaga, they have, West Genesee right down the road, and, some big programs there, and they get a lot of local kids, that, I mean, they're terrific players. So
10 years as the head coach, you've created a great lineage throughout so many different programs. So players coming to your program now have an opportunity, unlike being in high school, connecting with players that were their teammates, and now they can reach out and say, oh, you're at Maryland, you're at UMBC, how do you like the school, how do you like the campus, how's the food in the cafeteria, so on and so forth. For that's a great advantage for the players too.
absolutely. Yeah, I think they still talk to all the alumni, and those guys are sending them photos of their locker the first day. It's really cool. And it's also, they look up to those guys. They see what they've done, and they look at them and say, hey, I could see myself doing the same thing someday. And they ask a lot of questions. And, I think that's why we have, like at St. Leo this year, there's 4 guys there. We sent one a couple of years back who, I think probably helped with that. And so these pipelines kind of start, and there are some schools that are, repeat customers, if you will, that do come back to us, and they know that, we are looking to send guys their way, and we have built relationships with them. So, those guys are always talking. They love talking to those guys, and they'll go visit them at their schools, especially if they're local too.
So I'm very familiar. I think most of us are. Kyle is like, I don't know, Division I is between 70 and 75, right? Division II, 80 to 90 programs. Division III, 375 to 400. Mm-hmm. How many NJCAA teams compete at the college level on the men's side?
So right now we're at about 20. It ranges from 20 to mid 30s usually. And those are in varying regions, anywhere from Northern Virginia at one point had a team, Maryland, New Jersey, Delaware, Long Island, and then upstate New York. So, and there's actually a new team. I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a new team just sprouted up in Chicago area. And they're actually making a trip east to play some of the East Coast schools soon, College of DuPage. So, I think programs do sprout up. They may disappear. I think the key is, like New Jersey, when they brought it together, they had 4 teams that all started at the same time. I think that would be the key if other regions are trying to do this, is get a conference and a league. Sure. Don't just have one team. I just think it's too difficult with the travel costs and all of that. Right. So
no, that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Coach, we have learned so much. I know I have about NJCAA.
NJCAA.
NJCAA. Yeah.
National Junior College.
Yes, you're gonna have to get that
National
out.
Junior College Athletic Association.
Yes.
Clark University.
Yes, a Division III school. But Coach, I really appreciate your time, and it's great to learn about new programs. I hopefully, they see people listening to this podcast can see your program as an option.
A lot of options. It's a great option.
It is.
Fantastic, Coach. You did fantastic. Really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks so much for your time. Best of luck this season, and hopefully we'll run across someday.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And thanks again for listening to New England Lacrosse Journal's Chasing the Goal podcast. For Jack Piatelli, I'm Kyle Devitt. See you next time.